Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Super Sports Podcast, and I'm your host, Jack Shea.
And I'm Andrew Dozier.
And today, Andrew and I will be taking a deep dive into our top 10 sports moments.
Today's first moment is the Cavaliers' 3-1 comeback in the NBA Finals over the 73-9 Golden State Warriors.
It's over! Cleveland is a city of champions once again! The Cavaliers are NBA champions!
The Warriors are coming off a 73-9 record-breaking season with MVP Steph Curry leading them to the NBA Finals. They take a 3-1 series lead and need just one more win to secure the championship. No team has ever come back from a 3-1 deficit in the NBA Finals before, but LeBron had other plans. LeBron and Kyrie Irving would combine for 82 points in Game 5 on the road, forcing a Game 6 back in Cleveland. LeBron once again does LeBron things and drops 41 points and 11 assists, forcing a winner-go-home Game 7 at Oracle Arena in Oakland, California. Both of these teams are fighting for history. One is trying to become the best team of all time, record-wise, while the Cavaliers are trying to come back from down 3-1. It all comes down to this. The spread opened at 4.5 points in favor of the Golden State Warriors. After a hard-fought first half, the Warriors lead 49-42. Draymond Green is playing the game of his life. LeBron and the Cavaliers came to play in the second half. It would be down to the wire with under 2 minutes to go. All tied up at 89 with a minute and 5 seconds left, I'll let Mike Breen tell what happens next.
Irving and Curry, one-on-one. Irving puts it up. It's good! Kyrie Irving from downtown! And the Cavaliers by 3!
This would end up being the dagger at the end of the game, and the Warriors wouldn't be able to recover. The LeBron James-led Cavaliers would complete the comeback and become the 2016 NBA champions. Cleveland would be a city of champions once again, ending a 52-year championship drought.
Okay, so Andrew, I remember watching the series, and I'm pretty sure I wanted the Warriors to sweep the Cavs. Did they go up 2-0 at the start?
Yeah, I think it was up 2-0, and then Cleveland won a game, and then the Warriors won another one, and they just needed one more, but they couldn't get it done. It was crazy. I mean, LeBron just had a series of his life. I remember, one of our friends was a Cavs fan, and he was ecstatic throughout the whole series. He was down, and then he was super happy whenever they won the finals.
I'm a Celtics fan, so watching a team from the East make it to the finals, I'm obviously going to root against them because they probably beat my Celtics in some form during the tournament. And so I think when the Warriors went up 2-0, I was like, let's go Warriors, just finish them off. The record-breaking season, I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
I wasn't much into basketball at the time, but I thought it would be really cool to see a record-breaking team win the finals, 4-0.
Oh, yeah.
And it would solidify them as the greatest season team ever.
Yeah, and their regular season was crazy. 73-9. I mean, that was literally the best record of all time.
Beat them by one game.
Yeah.
Right?
One game. 72-10, 1996 Bulls, I think. Yes. And, as a Thunder fan, the Warriors beat us in the conference finals that year. We were up 3-1 on them, and they ended up coming back on us. So I was rooting for the Cavs all the way.
Yeah, you were rooting for the Cavs. I was rooting for the Warriors.
It was a crazy moment.
It's
definitely a top 10 sports moment of all time, in my opinion.
Today's second moment is Super Bowl 51. In the Super Bowl 51 matchup between the Atlanta Falcons and the New England Patriots, the Patriots were heavy favorites to win. Before the game, the over-under was listed at 58.5 points with a 3-point spread favoring New England. The Patriots had won 16 of their 18 matchups this season, while Tom Brady wasn't available for 4 of them. Coming into the game, 60% of bettors selected the Patriots to take home the Lombardi Trophy. To start the game, the Falcons won the coin toss, but decided to defer until the second half, giving the Patriots the ball to start. During the first quarter, neither team scored, but in the second quarter, the favored Patriots weren't looking so good. The Falcons ran up the score to 21-3, and in the third quarter, the Falcons extended their lead to make the score 28-3. A pretty large lead in the Super Bowl matchup. ESPN gave the Falcons a 99.7% chance at winning the game. After a slow start to the game, Tom Brady had different plans. The 0.3% chance was all he needed. To end the third quarter, Tom Brady and the Patriots marched down the field to score. A touchdown pass to James White and a missed extra point, the Patriots made the score 28-9, just the start of the comeback. During the fourth quarter, the Patriots would score the 19 points exactly they needed to tie the game, stopping the Falcons each time and marching down the field to score, watching the clock. The score was now 28-28, overtime. The Patriots had clawed their way back into this game, but they were not done yet. The Patriots won the overtime coin toss and received the ball. After marching down the field for 3 minutes and 58 seconds, 73 yards, 7 plays, the Patriots were sitting on the Falcons' 2-yard line. It was second down. The comeback was almost complete. Tom Brady snapped the ball, handed off to James White, who ran it into the end zone, winning the game.
Toss to White. Super Bowl. Brady has his fifth.
The Patriots had just completed the biggest comeback in Super Bowl history, being down 25 points.
So, Jack, I remember being at your house because you had a Super Bowl party that year, and the score, it was literally 28-3, and we just stopped watching the game. And I know you and your whole family are big Patriots fans, so we just stopped watching the game. We went in the other room, we played FIFA because you were super disappointed and bummed out.
Yeah, me, you, and Connor, those were the people at my house. The score was 28-3. I wasn't really big into football then, but still, this was a pretty big game, and being down 28-3 was a blow to morale. So I know we went into my living room and we just started playing FIFA on the Xbox. And it wasn't until you guys decided to just go home because I kept walking back and forth into the other room and seeing the score was still 28-3 and there's no hope.
Yeah.
And you guys went home. And I'm pretty sure when you were on your way home, I kept texting you. Did I not?
Yeah, you texted me, and I just remember that I was, riding on my way home with my mom in the car, and you just kept on texting me, oh, they scored, oh, they got a fumble, and I was just like, there's no way all this is happening. I honestly thought it was a joke. I thought you were messing with me at first. I was like, there's no way that all of this is going good for the Patriots after they were down 28-3. It was insurmountable in my head. I was like, there's no possible way that this is happening.
Yeah, your texts back were kind of like, no way, you're lying. And I was just like, no. I was talking in all caps. I was like, it was screaming. I was like, it's 28-9, it's 28-16, and they scored another one. Oh my God, they just tied the game. I think maybe you were at your house by the time, and you were watching it once they had tied the game.
I was watching it, and I guess by then I believed it, but I was in disbelief on the way home because I'm a Broncos fan. I've never really liked the Patriots, so I wanted the Falcons to win, and I was rooting against them. And hearing all that, I was like, "There's no way that this is happening." Because nothing like that has happened in the Super Bowl before.
Yeah.
A 25-point lead like that, that's just never happened.
Yeah, I didn't really love football until this game. Once they had won, I was the biggest Patriots fan around. I was flaunting all my Patriots gear at school.
Yeah.
Corey and I were just it was our day at school. Everyone was hating on us for it. They thought it was rigged, but we were like, nuh-uh, this is our day.
I remember that day. I remember you all came in and you all were super happy. I was bummed out. I was like, are you serious? They should not be able to do this. They were down 28-3. And every time, I think nowadays, every time that a sports team is up big, they got a big lead and people are like, oh, 28-3, don't count them out yet. It's changed sports forever.
Yeah, this is exactly just like our first moment today, the Cavs being down 3-1 and being able to take the game. I think it's a little different because they had to win 3 games in a row. It wasn't just one game. But still, it's the same thing. It's you can't be too comfortable as a team in the biggest stage because the other team will use the motivation from being down, or they would use the energy being down as motivation to come back.
And I think it's almost just changed it where, teams don't really give up as easy as they used to. Maybe before that game, they would be down by a lot.
And they would just accept their defeats.
Yeah, exactly.
Super Bowl 51, man. What a game.
Our next moment is Super Bowl 42, the New York Giants versus 16-0 Patriots in the Super Bowl. Throughout NFL history, there has only been one team to go undefeated in the regular season and win the Super Bowl. The 1972 Miami Dolphins accomplished this feat. The 2007 Patriots had a historic season, going 16-0 and making it all the way to the Super Bowl. The Giants had a record of 10-6 in the regular season, and were seeking to become the first NFC wildcard team to win a Super Bowl. The New England Patriots entered the game as a 12-point favorite, a steep favorite for the Super Bowl. New England had previously beat the Giants in the final game of the regular season by a score of 38-35. A relatively low-scoring affair, the Giants would be down by 14-10 with 2 minutes and 39 seconds left in the fourth quarter. They got the ball back on their own 17-yard line and would have to go 83 yards to the end zone to knock off the undefeated Patriots. One of the most iconic moments in NFL history would occur on this drive.
Pressure from Thomas off the edge. Eli Manning stays on his feet. Airs it out down the field. It is caught by Tyree.
David Tyree's helmet catch would convert a third down for the Giants, and they would go on to score a touchdown with 35 seconds remaining. The Giants would end up winning Super Bowl 42 by a score of 17-14. Eli Manning would be named Super Bowl MVP. This is widely regarded as one of the largest upsets in professional sports history.
Andrew, this game, it really has a hard place in my heart. I wasn't a Patriots fan, full on at the time. But still, every year, Super Bowl time, Patriots are always playing in the Super Bowl. It's brought back up. The 16-0 Patriots losing to the 10-6 Giants. David Tyree. Even though David Tyree hasn't brought up as much in, Hall of Fame things, he is still brought up every single year come Super Bowl time. I hear his name. I hear helmet catch. It's very annoying. I don't like it, but it's it was a good accomplishment for them to be an unbeatable team.
Yeah, and that helmet catch, it's iconic because of, the way he caught it off of his helmet.
He went behind. It was behind his head, and he was using. Was it just one hand?
It was just one hand. He was holding the football against his head.
Of course, Joe Buck, the announcer, he couldn't put enough effort into what a crazy catch that just was. Yes. He was really just monotone.
I think if that was done nowadays, everyone would freak out. The commentators would freak out. But I mean, I've seen silhouettes. I've seen T-shirts with just the helmet catch on it. It's iconic, and it's iconic in sports history. And, I think nowadays, going undefeated in the NFL is almost a curse. Ever since the 1972 Dolphins did it, no other team can do it.
And the Dolphins, they only had 14 games a season. So, the Patriots still going 6-0. It's a record in itself.
Yeah. But, every year now, there's always a team that comes out and they win, almost all their schedule. Like the Steelers last year. They started off 12-0. They got knocked out in the wild card.
And the Carolina Panthers, Super Bowl 50, 15-1. Yep. They lost in the Super Bowl. They got landslided. Cam Newton wasn't playing that well.
Yeah, the Broncos won that one. And it was just, it's crazy that, no team can truly accomplish this feat. I feel like it's almost a curse in the NFL nowadays.
Yeah, it's not only hard to just win those 16 games. Well, now 17 with the extension game of the season. Yeah. But it's hard to keep the momentum in the playoffs because those are the best teams who you might not have played in the regular season. You might have had the easiest schedule.
Yeah.
But come Super Bowl time, you might be playing the hardest team. Not in the case with the Patriots Giants, the Giants being a wild card.
Yeah.
But you could be playing the other number one team in the other division.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think going undefeated, the pressure that it puts on you is it mounts so much pressure on you. Even just this past year, I know this isn't football, but Gonzaga, they went undefeated all the way. They made it to the NCAA championship, and they lost to Baylor. I mean, it's just the pressure amounts, and it's already enough pressure, winning that many games, but going all the way undefeated, it's almost impossible in today's world for any sport, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm not saying you should purposely lose a game, but I feel like if you want to relieve some pressure, put in your backups, you know, take a game off with your starters, take that 15-1 or that 38-1. And just kind of learn that you can lose and you're not unbeatable.
Exactly.
And that way the pressure's lifted and you'll go into that final game ready to win and not be okay, the perfect season's on the line.
Yes.
It takes away so much pressure.
And knowing how to handle a loss is really important in today's sports especially.
Yeah. Crazy catch, by the way.
Oh,
crazy
it's insane.
Today's podcast's fourth moment is the USA women's soccer team beating Thailand's women's soccer team 13-0. During the 2019 Women's World Cup, the USA team dismantled the opposing Thailand team 13-0. This 13-0 win was the largest margin of victory in World Cup history, basically securing their spot in the round of 16. Team USA was led by Alex Morgan, who had herself 5 goals, tying the current World Cup record, also held by Michelle Akers. During the game, Team USA managed only to score 3 goals in the opening half. These goals were scored by Alex Morgan, Rose Lavelle, and Lindsay Horan. After halftime, Team USA took it to a whole nother level, scoring 10 goals. Samantha Mewis would score 2, Alex Morgan would get 4 more, Rose Lavelle would score her second goal of the game, Megan Rapinoe, Mally Poo, and Carly Lloyd would get their first and only goals in the second half. However, this game would lead to some controversy about whether or not teams should run up the score or let back and pass the ball. A lot of fans of the game believed that it was disrespectful for Team USA to run up the score and show no mercy on Thailand, but others believed that letting down and just passing would also be the wrong thing to do. Regardless of the right or wrong answer, Team USA's victory over Thailand was one of the most impressive sports moments of all time, proving why the women's team should be paid just as much as the men's team.
Now, Jack, I know this is more of a topic suited for you because I don't really follow soccer and know much about it. I mean, I know goals and I know the rules, but I really don't know the ins and outs of soccer, who's good, who's not. I know the U.S. isn't really that good, in men's soccer at least, but yeah, man, you pretty much take it away.
Yeah, I mean, I think this 13-0 win, I think it was good and bad at the same time. I think, yes, 13 goals is a lot, but it's also the World Cup. This is about proving your point and winning.
Yeah.
I don't think you should show mercy to anybody, even if you go up 13-0. The other day in a recreational soccer game for myself, we were up 9-0, and I feel like we were kind of being a little rude. Our goalie was just sitting on the ground. We had one person playing defense. Everyone was just up at the top searching for their goals, trying to get them. I had one. One kid had, a hat trick. I just think it's such a touchy subject because I've seen basketball teams, for example, win by 150 points.
Yeah.
be up 70, and they don't stop. And so I think with soccer, I know it's like a 1-point system. You score one, that's two. I think it's hard to say whether or not they were in the wrong because, they are an underappreciated team. They've won the World Cup a bunch of times. They're the best women's soccer team in the entire world, and every year there's the whole conversation they're not getting paid enough, and I completely agree. I mean, I think this 13-0 win was also just a statement to everybody in the world. Like, USA women's team, they're the best of anybody.
And you're right when you say it's a touchy subject because they're on the highest level of soccer in the world. They should be able to display their talent, and they should be able to carry that momentum in the next game. It's really tough because, they don't want to, step back on the gas and then they're not as prepared for the next game, or they're not getting that experience that I think is actually really valuable against other top teams. Maybe they're not as good, but they're still in the World Cup, and they still deserve to be treated as a worthy opponent, and they should be able to play as hard as they want the entire game. I don't think, that's my opinion on it, and I think that this could be in general in all sports. Yeah, I think at a point maybe sportsmanship does come into play, but as long as you are getting that experience, that is valuable experience no matter who the opponent is.
Yeah, I've personally, this is completely my opinion, I think scoring the 13 goals was not at all rude. I think it was, a lot of goals and probably made Thailand's team feel bad. But at the end of the day, if you stop trying to go for goals and you just pass the ball around, you're making the other team look like fools.
Yeah.
And you make them think, oh, we're not good enough to be here. When if you keep scoring and you keep, playing your best and they keep playing their best, it's going to be a moment of respect between both of you once the final whistle goes off.
Exactly. It shows, gamesmanship, sportsmanship. It shows that you're treating them like an opponent, like they should be. And, you mentioned the women should be paid the same as the men or even more. I agree with that. And I think that's definitely should be the same here because they get more viewers than the men most times.
Yeah, it's completely different. The women's team is just dominant. They win everything. I think way more people watch the women play than the men's team because the men's team they're just bad competing against any other
I'd
team.
much rather watch my country win than lose, for sure. But that is kind of a controversial subject. Like the WNBA versus the NBA. I can see why there's a pay disparity there because
the ratings are lower for the
way more people watch the NBA than the WNBA. But I mean, it is a really touchy subject and a controversial subject, and I think that it should be solely based on ratings and how much money they bring in, truly, because that's where they should be getting paid out of.
That's where the money's coming from.
Yeah.
Overall, just an amazing game from Team USA in the 2019 World Cup. 13 goals, a World Cup record.
Crazy.
5 goals, Alex Morgan tying the current record held by Michelle Akers.
I mean, what? A soccer game's like...
Outstanding performance.
What, an hour and a half?
Yeah, they're 90 minutes, 2 45-minute halves.
So you're scoring a goal
and they only scored
minutes?
3 goals in the first half and 10 in the second half.
Oh my gosh.
To put, triple plus 1 in the second half.
That's insane. That's just
maybe Thailand
crazy.
Just ran out of gas and they just couldn't keep holding up with this Team USA women's team.
That's crazy.
Crazy game.
Awesome sports moment.
Crazy game.
Today's fifth moment is the Cubs winning the World Series after their long championship drought.
This is going to be a tough play. The Cubs win the World Series. Brian makes the play. It's over. And the Cubs have finally won it all. It's 7-10.
The Chicago Cubs had a dynasty in the early 1900s. Winning back-to-back World Series in the 1907 and 1908 seasons, the Cubs seemed like they weren't going anywhere. Little did they know, they wouldn't achieve this feat for another 108 years. The 2016 World Series was a matchup between the Cleveland Indians and the Chicago Cubs. The Indians would come out strong, taking a commanding 3-1 series lead. They needed to win just one more game to end the hopes and dreams of the Cubs and Cubs fans all around the world. But the Cubs weren't going to let this one slip through their hands. They weren't going to go down without a fight. They fought back and won Game 5 by a score of 3-2. They would dominate the next game, winning 9-3. It all came down to Game 7. This game would be tight throughout and would have to go to extra innings to decide it. In the 10th inning, the Cubs would outscore the Indians 2-1, and they would win their first World Series in over 100 years. This was, and still is, the longest professional sports championship drought. This made the 2016 World Series win that much more special. I am not a baseball fan, but even I was excited for the Cubs when they finally won another one. 2016 truly was a wild year for sports. The Warriors won 73-9 and blew a 3-1 lead in the NBA Finals, and the Cubs ended in a 100-year World Series drought.
Andrew, I'm not, like you said earlier, a baseball fan. I am a technical Red Sox fan, liking all sports from Boston. But like you said, this was just such a special moment in baseball and just sports because whenever a team doesn't win a championship for so long, fans start to lose hope.
Yeah.
And, you said they won 2 back-to-back, and, they wanted to keep this dynasty going, and nothing else happened. It took 108 years to win again.
I mean, yeah.
And, as a Patriots fan and a Red Sox fan, Celtics fan, Bruins fan, I expect championships because just Boston's such a dominant sport, but I can't imagine how other cities and other teams their fans go on for so long without a championship. It just seems so arbitrary to me.
Yeah, and the draft system, it's designed for the worst teams to have the best picks and vice versa. So there should be, a switch of talent every year, a switch of how good the team is every year. So, if a bad team is bad one year, they'll be good in the next
Decently
couple because
good, yeah.
they'll get, good draft picks. But for the Cubs, it just never seemed to work out for them. Like, they would be good. They would even make it to the World Series, but they could never truly eclipse that
finish
championship. Yeah.
Stop the drought.
And, I'm a Reds fan because, they're local. But, 108 years, that's a whole lifetime. Someone would have, been born. Cubs wouldn't have won World Series the whole time they were alive, and they would have died. They lived to like 100.
Seen their
they
team
would have
win a
never seen. Yeah, it's crazy.
I know. I mentioned something to my dad the other day about the Red Sox, and he goes, "You talk about their drought. I'm pretty sure the Red Sox did up until like 2013. I don't remember 2008 maybe.
Yeah.
They won the World Series. It was like a 78-year drought or something like that. That's also crazy, because they were really good with Babe Ruth. It was the Bambino curse once they got rid of Babe Ruth and sent him off to New York. I think that really stuck around a long time.
Yeah.
But in baseball, it's really hard to win because there are so many teams, and the series are shorter. It's only a 5-game series for the first 2 rounds, and then it's a 7-game series.
It's so many games, too.
Yeah,
like 162. Yeah. That's
and it
crazy.
depends on who you have your lineup because some games you have your best pitchers and some you have your relief team going out there and trying to win your game, and it's just hard. I think baseball's definitely a hard sport to stay consistent in unless you're just a large capital like LA and New York where you can have the money to bring in people. But Chicago, it's not one of the bigger sports cities.
Yeah.
Like these other, Goliaths.
Yeah. And 2016, that was just such a wild year for sports. You had
2 3-1 comebacks.
Yeah, 2 3-1 comebacks and 2 crazy sports accomplishments, 73-9 and 108-year championship drought. Yeah. And then the very next year the Patriots go on to come back 28-3. It's I miss sports. I kind of miss sports like that.
The pandemic is kind of
It seems like
it's sports.
It's not the same as it used to be.
It's not the same. You don't get to see all the same crazy moments and the outstanding performances by these teams like you used to, and the announcers
and the fans.
It's just not. Without the fans in the stands chanting and booing and defense. It's just,
I'm sure you heard in our sound bites. There was fans, and it's so loud whenever they win the championship. But we didn't have that. The NBA Finals, they wrapped up and
it was kind of forgotten. Honestly, I forget. It's like just the Lakers won like expected, and it's just
like
over.
Input crowd noise. It's not the same.
Yeah,
it's not the same.
Crazy way to end the drought.
It was a crazy sports moment. I definitely ranked that in my top 10.
In that series. Yeah, 100%.
That was insane.
Today's 6th moment is the Liverpool versus Barcelona Champions League game. The Champions League is the biggest stage for professional soccer teams throughout the year. The Champions League consists of 32 teams being drawn in 8 groups of 4. After the group stage comes the round of 16, to the quarterfinals, to the semifinals, and then to the sought-after finals. The way the rounds of 16 through the semifinals work is that there are 2 legs, and whichever team has the better aggregate moves on. An aggregate in soccer is whichever team scores more goals on the other team in the 2 games wins. One of the most exciting matchups of all time was the Barcelona vs. Liverpool matchup in the 2019 Champions League semifinals. During leg 1 of their matchup, Barcelona made easy work of their Liverpool opponent, beating them 3-0. Even though Barcelona had lower time of possession, less passes, and less distance covered, they converted 3 times the score and their defense kept a clean sheet. Lionel Messi scored 2 goals and Luis Suarez scored the third. For Barcelona to hold on to this lead and move on to the finals, they would just need to stop Liverpool from scoring 4 times in the second leg. And if Liverpool did score 4 times, Barcelona would just need to score once or twice to win the aggregate. However, during their leg 2 of their matchup, Barcelona did not score at all, and in fact, Liverpool scored all 4 goals they needed in order to win the aggregate. During this match, Barcelona outworked Liverpool in almost every category, having more passes, more possession, and less fouls. Where Liverpool had in one area they did better. They had more shots, and in turn had more goals. The 4 goals were scored by only 2 players on Liverpool, Divock Origi and Georgino Wijnaldum. After scoring the 4 goals they needed to complete the comeback, they would move on to the Champions League finals and play Tottenham, Liverpool would win the final and be crowned champions of Europe.
I really don't know anything about the Champions League. I mean, I know from when we played FIFA, I know some of the teams and some of the players, like, Messi, and
Yeah.
that's about it, really.
He's the big name. So the Champions League, it's really special tournament because it's just the biggest one for club teams all across Europe. You have to qualify in, and then you get drawn into these subgroups, those 8 groups of 4. There's always one group called the Group of Death, where it's 4 really good teams, and no one ever knows who's going to make it out of there. But what was really special about this Liverpool and Barcelona matchup was that it wasn't just like any other comeback, because 3-0, with the aggregate system being whoever scores more goals, it wouldn't have mattered that Barcelona lost that second game. They could have just scored 1 goal, and it would have put them at 4-4, and then because they scored 3, or the matchup, they would have won the aggregate.
Yeah.
It's a really weird system, and it's not seen in any American sports.
Yeah. I was about to say, I didn't even know that was a thing. Like, I've never heard of that, where, like, even if you lose games but technically score more goals than the other team.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
I didn't watch, in particular, these games. I was, like, looking at the scores on my phone. Robert Sinceri was actually at my house. He's a Liverpool fan. I'm a Barcelona fan. And I saw Barcelona go up 3-0. I'm like, Robert, your Liverpool team is done. And he said, nah, just watch. They're coming back. And sure enough, the next day, we at school, he goes, hey, Jack, look at this, and shows Liverpool won 4-0. I'm like, well, how did this just happen? How did the team that only needed to score 1 goal and they just needed to stop all the other teams from just scoring, they lost?
Yeah.
And, I used to be a huge Barcelona fan. At school, I would wear Barcelona attire all day.
Yeah.
I was the biggest Messi fan, Neymar fan, Suarez fan. But this was just, it was, and, Liverpool went on to win. So it's like their biggest feat wasn't even winning. It was just coming back from a team that's, the top 10 best in Europe, and beating them 4-0.
It is crazy, and it almost takes me back to that don't give up, and that 28-3 kind of thing.
Yeah,
because
if you're ever back, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
and you can still perform. If they can beat you 3-0, you can beat them 3-0 plus some.
Yeah, and I think kids all around the world are seeing these types of games. There's so many soccer fans all around the world, and football fans. Everyone, they're seeing these comebacks, and they're applying it to themselves. Maybe they'll be down in their own Little League games, or, even
the biggest Little League comeback
leagues.
ever.
Yeah, and they can come back. And I think it's really inspiring people, and kids especially, that
The
these teams
funny
are coming back.
thing about this Barcelona team is Lionel Messi. He is second or first, based on how you think of it, in the world at soccer. Best top 2 players. Mm-hmm. He always comes up short in every single tournament. He was in the semifinals on the Copa America tournament in like 2016 or 18 or something like that. Lost. He threatened to retire because he was so mad. In the World Cup, they lost to Germany in the finals. Champions League, he's made it to the finals countless times. Semifinals countless times. He's that one player that he's won a few championships in these tournaments, but he just can't, because of his team, he just can't get to that next level and convert. He's always that second place more often than not.
Yeah. It's an awesome moment. Today's 7th moment is the Miracle on Ice. The 1980 Winter Olympics were underway, and the Soviet Union was a hockey powerhouse. They had won 5 out of the last 6 gold medals in hockey. They also had not lost an Olympic hockey game since 1968. Comprised of mostly professionals, the Soviet Union was heavily favored in their matchup against the U.S. The United States hockey team was made up of mostly college players who didn't have any professional experience. An exhibition game at Madison Square Garden a few games before would end in a 10-3 routing of the United States by the Soviet Union. Nobody expected anything else, though. The average age for the U.S. team was a mere 22 years old. However, the United States would go on to win 4-3, and it would be one of the greatest upsets in sports history. This was more than an Olympic upset, however. To many Americans, it was a mind victory in the Cold War. Sports Illustrated named the Miracle on Ice the top sports moment of the 20th century.
Hockey is one of those sports in, America where it's not that prominent. I'm not, would I say, a huge, hockey fan, but I'm a pretty good Bruins fan. 2 years ago or last year when they were in the NHL, Stanley Cup Final, I was rooting hardcore for them over the Blues. I was watching every single game. You were at my house camping. I was like, Andrew, who won the first game? You're like, Bruins up 1-0. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah.
And they ended up losing, which was kind of annoying to listen to, but I know my dad has talked a lot about Miracle on Ice because he's from Massachusetts. So hockey, like he wasn't a fan of hockey. He played a lot of hockey, like street hockey.
Yeah.
At school and stuff. I don't really know a lot about hockey.
Yeah.
And like that whole mine victory thing, that doesn't make sense to me. I guess beating them would put a toll on Soviet Union during that time.
I mean, definitely, because the Cold War, there was never actually a war.
Yeah.
It was just
Stalemate.
little like advancements and I'm better than you, and I think this really showed that because if you think about it, they're beating a team of professionals. These college kids, they beat them, and it's really iconic, because you hear the call, Al Michaels. I mean, it's crazy how they beat them. And, it was 1980. It was a long time ago. But it is insane how they actually beat them.
Yeah, I have two moments that kind of relate to this where like amateurs beat professionals.
Yeah.
A few years ago, a 16-year-old tennis star, Coco Gauff, she made it pretty far in Wimbledon. I think she made it like into the third round. And she was only 16, so she's not even like close to these players' levels. And then a few years back, the Australian women's team was playing, like soccer team, was playing a U15 academy team from Texas. The Chicago, or no, not the Chicago, the Dallas, maybe it was Chicago, the Chicago Fire Academy. And the U15 team beat the professional woman. Yeah. And it's weird when you see people who lack experience beat these professional powerhouses.
I really think it's just the underdog mentality, and especially then it was more than hockey. It was like, the United States versus the Soviet Union, who's better?
Yeah, maybe it's one of those situations where you think you're so much better that you don't really try your hard, and then all of a sudden you are down and you're scrambling to make up points, and you can't.
Momentum. Yep.
Momentum is already shifted from you to them, and you're not going to be able to get it back.
Yeah, and hockey's a really interesting sport because it's like soccer and the principle
it's becoming
that
more and more prominent.
One goal. It's really prominent in Canada. Yeah. They love their hockey up there, and that's why there's so many NHL teams in Canada too. But it's an awesome sport, and I think it was the perfect sport for this to happen in because Soviet Union, they were the best at hockey.
And some ragtag team of 22-year-olds came and just took that from them.
And I think that really boosted those 22-year-olds' confidence. Some of them went on and played in the NHL, and the coach was an amazing coach. So
yeah, he really guided a team that shouldn't have been there.
Yeah,
and then
to the promised land. Pretty much. Yeah, exactly.
The eighth moment today is Tiger Woods' 2019 Masters win. Tiger Woods is one of the greatest golfers of all time. He has 108 worldwide wins, 82 PGA Tour wins, 15 major championships won, 11 PGA Player of the Year awards, 8 wins at both the Arnold Palmer and WGC Bridgestone Invitational, most of anyone on the tour, 5 Masters victories, and 1 Presidential Medal of Freedom. Tiger Woods has the stats and the achievements to show why he's the greatest golfer of all time, but his win at the 2019 Masters, in my opinion, solidifies his spot at the all-time number 1. During Woods' early years as a golfer were nothing short of dominant. However, in 2009, the scandal erupts. In 2010, he made his first public announcement and got cut by some sponsors. In early 2010, he made his return to golf but had some major pains holding him back. He would win a few major tournaments from 2011 to 2016 before falling into scandal once again. He had gone through a spinal fusion surgery and got addicted to pills. He would then crash his car while he was asleep at the wheel, causing him to get arrested. He made his return in early 2018 after fighting through pain and scandals. Tiger would play in the 2019 Masters in Augusta. In round 1, he was 4 strokes back from the lead at 2 under, putting him in 11th place. In round 2, Tiger would shoot 4 under, putting him at 6 under overall, only 1 stroke behind first place. In round 3, Tiger would rocket up to 2nd place at 11 under, still 2 strokes back from first place. In the final round on Sunday, Tiger would jump up to the first place spot at 13 under, leading by 1 stroke. On hole 18, Tiger putted in the final shot to win the 2019 Masters. He reached for his ball and celebrated his first Masters win since 2005.
Now, I'm not really that into golf, but my dad is.
Same with my dad.
Yeah, I mean, he watches almost every tournament. He's big on the PGA Tour. And I think I remember him watching this one and how surprising it was that Tiger did this well after everything that happened.
Yeah, I've occasionally sat with my dad and watched golf. I've never fully invested into it to remember player names. I could probably name a few players.
Yeah.
But I remember watching the 2019 Masters one because I remember Tiger putting his hand in the thing, grabbing his ball out, and then all of a sudden he just threw his arms up.
Yeah.
And then went over and hugged his kids. And I think this whole moment when I was researching Tiger Woods, because I just wanted to include him because he's such a spectacular golf player, the staple of golf,
yeah,
if you will. I think when I was when I was looking through, the biggest thing that stood out to me was all the scandals. Like, I know he has a few things happen to him with, like, injuries and affairs and all that set his career back. And to win the Masters after 14 years of winning the most previous one you had won, I think that's just crazy because that's just dominance over decades.
Yeah, and it shows his true talent because the Masters is the biggest tournament in the world. It's crazy how he could, overcome all that adversity and come back and win the biggest tournament in the world. It's the ultimate underdog story, the ultimate redemption story,
Yeah. Tiger, if you ask anybody who is the staple of golf, who is the most...
Oh, yeah.
Which golfer, Tiger Woods.
100%.
No one else. I mean, maybe a few people would say Phil Mickelson, but Tiger Woods is the clear big name for... And, at one point, I don't think I mentioned that in the little biography, he was dropped from some sort of, thing as a leader in golf, on a tournament, and he had to fight back for that captain spot after all these scandals erupt.
I mean, it shows his true talent, and I think, even people that don't follow golf know Tiger Woods. And whether that's for good reasons or for bad, it shows how good he is and how important this moment was.
I said these 3 words literally a minute ago. Dominance over decades. I actually love that now.
Yeah.
Tiger Woods is literally the Patriots of golf. They started their first Super Bowl wins in 2001, and they've won their most recent one in 2019.
Yeah.
And it's just like Tiger Woods. He started back in the early 2000s or maybe 1990s.
Yeah.
And now he's still, showing his pure dominance literally decades later.
I mean, it shows how good of a golfer he is.
Yeah.
Our 9th moment is Jackie Robinson being the first African-American to play in the MLB on April 15th, 1947. Robinson was an outstanding baseball player. He would go on to win Rookie of the Year and be an All-Star for 6 consecutive seasons from 1949 to 1954. He was also the first black player to win NL MVP. His jersey number 42 would be retired in 1997 for all MLB teams. Every year, on April 15th, Jackie Robinson Day is celebrated. On this day, all players in the MLB wear jersey number 42 to honor Jackie Robinson. His contribution was not just to baseball and professional sports, but to America as well. He contributed greatly to the civil rights movement. This was so much more than baseball, and it came at a great time, right before the peak of the civil rights movement. Robinson faced racism and adversity throughout his life and career, but he didn't let that stop him. He persevered and made history. He made baseball a game for everyone to play, regardless of your skin color.
Jackie Robinson, it's such a famous name. There's a movie on him. He obviously had an incredible career, broke the color barrier in a major sport.
Yeah.
The only thing I really have, about this moment, because I wasn't alive to experience this, was that my friend in Texas, his mom babysitted Jackie Robinson's kids growing up. And I was because I went to his house a few times, and I think she had pictures of it. And I thought that was really cool, because that's the first time I really learned about Jackie Robinson, was from that moment. I hadn't really been into baseball sports until then, didn't really know anything. But still, such an amazing feat it just shows that the color barrier is such a stupid thing. Preventing players. Because Jackie Robinson, you said, won MVP, Rookie of the Year. It's he's a good player. Why were they limiting him from not playing?
And it shows that, nowadays, at least, we can have all the best players play in the top leagues. We have truly the top talent. And Jackie Robinson really started that, I think. It showed that, no matter who you are, if you're good, you should be able to play. And I think it's awesome that, we can have that nowadays. It allows us to have the best viewing experience as fans, Everything's so much more competitive, and, the players can actually play to their true potential.
Yeah, I love how they honor him, too, every single day. What was the date?
April 15th.
April 15th.
Yeah.
Was that the day he got into the MLB, too?
Yes, that was I think that was
and they
the
wear
first
the number 42. That's really cool.
Yeah, and that was
his number's retired in LA Dodgers.
Yeah. For every team.
Every team.
Yeah, every team.
42.
Yep, 42.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Such a
And I think even if it wasn't retired, players wouldn't wear it out of respect. And, that was just a couple weeks ago. I saw some posts on some social media about how everyone was wearing 42. I think it's an awesome tradition, and I think that they should continue to do it.
Yeah.
And I really think that this was, a top sports moment of all time.
A top 5 sports moment in just baseball alone.
Yeah, because it starts this whole new era for sports in America.
Yeah. Today's 10th moment is UMBC upsetting Virginia. March Madness is the biggest college basketball tournament each year. In March Madness, sometimes the 15 seed beats the 2 seed, 14 seed beats the 3 seed, but those are on rare occasions. An even rarer occasion would be the 16 seed beating the 1 seed, a feat that had never happened since the tournament started back in 1939. It wasn't until the 2018 March Madness tournament that a 16 seed finally beat the 1 seed. The UMBC Retrievers were the team to complete this miraculous feat. Starting off the game strong, the UMBC Retrievers were sticking with 1 seed Virginia. They kept the game tied at 21 through the first half, and the second half is when the story really started. UMBC scored first and then again to lead by 6. At one point in the game, UMBC was up 8 points, 32-24, but still was not favored to win the game. After scoring 6 unanswered points, UMBC then had a 71.1% chance of winning the game. 6 points earlier, they had a 57% chance of losing. Throughout the half, Virginia would only score 33 points, and they never took back the lead. UMBC kept fighting, and at the end of the game, they had a 20-point lead over Virginia, winning 74-54. The lead they fought for wasn't even the best prize of the night. They had just made history as the first ever 16 seed to win in a March Madness tournament, ever. The best part of the game was that the score wasn't even close. UMBC won by 20 and never gave up the lead. The MVP of the game was UMBC senior guard Jarius Lyles. Lyles scored 28 points against Virginia to account for 26% of UMBC points. This game would be known in history as one of the greatest basketball games ever and will be told from years to come.
Now, March Madness, I think it's my favorite time of the year, or at least for sports, because there's just so many upsets, there's so many cool storylines to follow, and Kentucky's usually pretty good too. And I remember this year, I watched the first half of the game and it was close, but then I fell asleep because I was so tired. And I remember my dad woke me up and was like, UMBC won. And I was like so surprised and I was out of it. And I thought I dreamt. I thought it was a dream. So when I woke up the next morning, I was like, wait, a 16 actually beat a 1? I was so surprised and I can't believe that I missed it live.
The biggest part of March Madness is the whole bracket concept. Everyone's filling out their brackets. They want to be that billion-dollar winner.
Yep.
And I think this game just proved that it's never going to happen. As much as everyone says it's going to happen one day, or as much as they want it to happen, it's just never going to happen because you can't account for something like this.
Exactly.
Virginia probably had a 70% chance of winning the game, probably even higher, and still lost by 20 points.
Yeah.
To a 16 seed, to UMBC, who no one's ever heard of unless you've been there.
Yeah, and the whole bracket challenge and the perfect bracket, it's impossible. They may say, oh, there's a way, you just have to get really lucky. It is literally statistically basically impossible.
Like 1 in
the
odds
odds
or
are
something like that.
crazy because you have to guess every single matchup right and then guess those matchups. It's just so difficult, and like you said, upsets like these show that'll probably never happen.
The most point differential that happens usually in an upset in a March Madness game is probably 3 to 5 points.
Yeah, it's usually on a buzzer beater.
When they won by 20, that was the craziest part. Is they had a 2-digit lead.
Yep.
Over a number 1 seed.
I mean, it's demoralizing for that Virginia team, you'd think, right? But then the next year, they go out and win the championship.
Yeah, Virginia comes back a year later after being the first team to ever lose to a 16 seed and just won the tournament. It's as much as you want to feel bad for them that year because they just lost to a 16 seed, you're also wow, they really just redeemed themselves. You can't talk bad about them now because they proved that they're not a 16 seed loser.
And I think a lot of the players that were on that Virginia team stayed on that team for the next season.
Yeah,
and
Kyle Guy is the only one I can name.
They took that loss and they said,
used it as
no,
fuel.
We're going to the championship. We're winning it all this year. And I called the Tiger Woods moment the ultimate redemption story earlier. I think I'm changing that. I think this is the ultimate redemption story.
It is.
And that upset, I just can't believe that a 16 beat a 1. It was always thought of as impossible. No way a 16 can ever beat a 1. Because there was 15s that would beat 2. You talked about that. But no. I mean, the 16 beating a 1 seed is the top 4 teams in college basketball. 16 seeds are these small teams that don't really, they'll win their conference, that super small conference.
Yeah, they're tiny conference.
They don't get a chance, really. But UMBC, they were different. And that was a once-in-a-lifetime game.
It's just crazy. It's still hard to, remember this day, grasp that it actually happened. Because it's I know that was a few years ago, and now it's not talked about as much as it was.
Yeah.
But during the time, everyone's bracket within the first day was just done.
I don't think there was any.
There wasn't any past the first couple games. Yep. That segment concludes today's Super Sports Podcast. Thank you so much for listening. This is your host, Jack Shea.
And I'm Andrew Dozier.